Hello everyone, this is Wobbly Wallaby, and today I'm doing part 2 of the series about farming as a new Arcane Master in Ragnarok Mobile 2.0. The release of Komodo in episode 9 provided some great damage buffs to help new players. In particular, the ancient equipment, new free-to-play gear, and combined combat time. In part 1, the farming ended at Glasshelm Culverts. Ancient equipment allowed me to push my Arcane Master to a very popular chain lightning spot. Here are my deposits to show you this is a free-to-play new account, and my handbook hasn't changed a lot besides adding some cheap magic attack deposits. I'm level 136, but when you farm in spots where you don't have a level gap, your level will go up quickly. First, I'll show you what gear and cards have changed since the last video. I used to have Sacrifice Book for the Ignore Magic defense, but I found the Wisdom Totem was better for damage. The maximum magic damage is 18%, so my luck was bad, but this is still very strong. Next, I changed my Robe of Cast to an Old Windbreaker. You can get this even if you don't do the Komodo weekly instance, since you can craft it in Komodo. I wanted to show you that even without a random attribute, this armor is fantastic. New players lack raw magic attack, so this will add 700 magic attack at Refined 10. Soul Guy's leather shirt is the ancient equipment that you can get with a random attribute. You could potentially get 24% magic attack, which is an insane damage boost. Next, for armor card, I use the Moonax Star card for the 15% ignore magic defense. For garment, I use the Epic Spirit Beacon still for the ignore magic defense 5% and because it has a socket. I didn't go for a socketed Natto Kig's Manteau because I found it expensive to socket and refined to 10. Personally, I found that Zenny could be better spent towards the garment card. Next, the garment card I'm using is the Harpy Star card, which will add int, magic attack, and magic attack percentage. Next, for footgear, I switched from Shoes of Mana Storm to Crystal Pumps for slightly more magic attack percentage and int. For accessories, I bought one Eye of Dullahan. This is for the Wizard Power combo, which will give me 15% magic attack. For my second accessory, I still use the Epic Spirit Beacon necklace. For cards, I use the Moonlight Tendrillion cards for skill damage for both accessories. For weapon, I went from the Epic Spirit Feather Certificate wand to a plus 10 Wizard Power. This was the first expensive gear I'd saved up for since it adds a lot of damage. For weapon cards, Komodo introduced the Shell Sepet card, which is a fantastic card to have in general. The plus 5 int is nice, and for PvE, the critical damage is nice. We don't rely on the critical damage for farming. Against formless monsters, I use the Peko Peko Egg card, and for brutes, I use the Goblin card. For headgear, I switched from the original Chant Void to Beer Salesman. Beer Salesman is a new Komodo headgear which grants 8% wind attack, which helps improve your chain lightning damage. For headgear card, I use the Sealed Apocalypse card for the 10% ignore magic defense. For face, I switched from the Evil Eye to Epic Spirit Lightning. Make sure you do Valhalla Ruins each week so you can buy this face item. This is one of the best items you can get for the chain lightning build. For mouth, I use the Key of the Stars. If you missed that Advanced Kefka rewards, use the Abyss Whisper instead. For back, I use Vow of the Sea instead of Graduation Song for the skill damage plus 4% and the SP cost reduction of skills. Next, for tail, I use the Sea Soul's tail. I hadn't changed this from the first video. Next, for pets, I use the Sohi pet for the magic attack up passive skill. I didn't have this pet before, but I like having the extra magic attack. Next are my skills. Here are my mage skills. Next, my wizard skills. Next, my high wizard skills. Next, my Warlock skills. And finally, my Arcane Master skills. In general, my auto attack is Chain Lightning, Recognize Spell, Amplify Magic Power, and Energy Coat. If you're strong enough, remove some of these buff skills so you can spend more time using Chain Lightning. Next, I'll discuss the rest of my build. Next, for guild buffs, I invested in Wise Blessing for magic attack. For blessings, I got wind damage to 8% and magic penetration to 7%. For Aesir, I hadn't changed much from the first video. Here's what I have. Make sure to get all Chain Lightning Ruin nodes and wind damage increasing nodes. Next, let's do some farming. With the combined combat time, I wanted to see how much Zenny I would earn at Glass Helm Culverts as a baseline. This is my favorite spot in Glass Helm Culverts, targeting stings and Anolians. Here is the monster data. The hardest to kill is stings since they are earth, which is why I use the Peko Peko egg card for extra damage to formless monsters. Anolians are easy to kill since they are water monsters, so they take double damage from Chain Lightning. Here's the gear I'm using. For offhand, I'm using the Totem Wood Carving, which is the novice level ancient equipment totem to show that even without random attributes, it is strong. For armor, I'm using the Old Windbreaker with the Moonneck Star card. For garment, I'm using the Light Saint Cape, which you can buy from the events NPC in Pantera. This is a cheap garment that you can use if you need more job EXP and the extra int. For shoes, I use the Shoes of Mana Storm. For accessories, I use the Eye of Dullahan with the Moonlight Tendrillin card. I also use the Epic Spirit Beacon necklace with the Moonlight Tendrillin card. For weapon, I'm using the Epic Spirit Feather Certificate wand with 2 Peko Peko egg cards to deal extra damage to stings. For head, I'm using the Beer Salesman with the Sealed Apocalypse card. For face, I'm using the Epic Spirit Lightning. I'm using Key of the Stars for mouth, Vow of the Seas for back, and Sea Soul's Tail for tail. Here's my starting Zenny and drops in my bag. I also show my combat time is at 390 minutes. I got 90 minutes of combat time from listening to 30 minutes of music. I farm until 540 combat time, which is red stamina, and I stop. Here is my resulting Zenny and drops. Here is the summary. I earned 2.8 million raw Zenny, and if I include sellable materials, it is 4.67 million per day. Due to the level gap difference, the raw Zenny isn't as high as I want it to be. Next, I tried Toy Factory 1F, which is a popular spot for Arcane Masters in the past. However, I found the density of the creatures can be inconsistent and is also very aggressive. I ended up getting worse Zenny when compared to Glass Helm Culverts, so personally I wouldn't farm here. Instead, I'd skip to the next spot. Magma Dungeon 1F was a very popular grinding spot for Arcane Masters in the past. I'm glad that ancient equipment could allow me to farm here because before I wasn't strong enough. Here are my stats with self buffs and no foods. For attributes, I'd maxed out int and enough dex to lower my Chain Lightning cast time. I put a bunch of points into Vitality for survivability in PvE. My magic attack is at 6,480. My int is at 345. My magic penetration is at 28.6%. My variable cast time is at negative 12%. My fixed cast time adjusted is negative 15%. My variable cast time reduction is minus 3 seconds. My skill damage increase is 8%. My magic damage percentage is at 43.7%. My magic damage increase is at 72.2%, and my ignore magic defense is at 55%. My wind damage is at 51%. And against brutes, it is 17%. Next is gear. For gear, I use Wisdom Totem for offhand. I use the Old Windbreaker with the Moon Extra card. I use the Epic Spirit Beacon Cape with the Harpy Star card. I use Crystal Pumps. I use the Eye of Dullahan with the Moonlight Tendrilin card. The Epic Spirit Beacon Necklace with the Moonlight Tendrilin card. For weapon, I use Wizard Power with 1 Goblin card and 1 Shell Chapette card. For head, I use Beer Salesman. For face, I use Epic Spirit Lightning. For mouth, I use Key of the Stars. For back, I use Vow of the Sea. And for tail, I use the Sea Soul tail. Here's my starting Zenny and bag. Here's my favorite spot in Magma Dungeon 1F. Here are the monster stats. This map was hard in the past because nothing was weak to wind. As a result, you have to hit really hard. The fire fledgling is the hardest to kill, so that's why I use the Brute's damaging card. I show that I'm at 390 minutes of combat time, and then I start zapping away at this spot. After 540 minutes of farming, here is my bag and Zenny. Here is the summary. I got 3.4 million raw Zenny and 4.47 million if I sold everything. If you're able to sell glass helm materials very easily, then that spot is better. But if you care about raw Zenny only, then Magma Dungeon 1F is better. So, what's the next spot? I'm still not strong enough to kill monsters consistently in the Holy Ice Cave, which is in Rachel, but that is our next target. I'm hoping I get better random attributes from my ancient equipment so I can more easily farm that. I hope you are farming more efficiently with the new ancient equipment and combined combat time. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe.